This episode of Based On It features music from Yorkshire 10th's new album, New Again.
The main man is hired by the Easter Bunny to kill that fat-ass bastard, Santa Claus, in Lobo's Paramilitary Christmas Special, with special guests Andrew Bryniarski, Gibis, Val Semeiks, and Dan Raspler. I'm Carlos from Punishing Cosplay, and welcome to 2G1's Based On a Ha 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 Ha! Merry Christmas, compadres! Ho ho, frickin' ho!
Based on a comic book.
Sometimes it's me!
Yes, and sometimes it's us.
Damn,
Freeze!
I was talking out loud again.
Based on a video game. Based on a cartoon.
Thanks.
My name is Optimus Prime.
2G1 presents Based on a...
Welcome to episode 2 of Based On It, where we look at movies based on video games, comic books, cartoons, and the genre material they are usually based on. My name is Ryan McClellan, and today we are looking at a short film made in 2002 that was never meant for public consumption. Lobo's Paramilitary Christmas Special. It was never meant for public consumption because it was a student film for AFI, yet 18 years later, we are still talking about it. Mostly thanks to a little-known website called YouTube and the amazing performances of its stars. Today we are going to look at Lobo, the Paramilitary Christmas Special comic, the film, along with special guests Andrew Bryniarski, Gibis, DC Comics Lobo editor Dan Raspler, and DC Comics artist Val Semeiks. Walk into any comic book store in the 1990s and there would be one DC Comics character you would see everywhere. Batman. It was the 90s. I mean, he had 4 theatrical films alone. But right after Batman, there was a cigar-chomping, beer-drinking, space motorcycle riding, loudly cursing blue alien who was quick to temper and could kick, punch, throw, crack, break, and frag better than anyone else. Even Superman.
My card.
His name is Lobo, and he is the main man. Lobo was created by Keith Giffen and Roger Silfer, seeing his premiere in the pages of Omega Men number 3 in 1983. His look was a bit different, so was his origin, but one point that never changed was Lobo was an ultra-violent badass. Giffen is no stranger to creating standout characters that resonate with comic book fans, as Ambush Bug, Rocket Raccoon, and Heckler are amongst the writer-artist's creations. Keith Giffen has said on Lobo's creation,
I have no idea why Lobo took off. I came up with him as an indictment of the Punisher Wolverine hero prototype, and somehow he caught on as the high-violence poster boy. That backfired on me viciously. I thought Lobo would be one miniseries and then the end. I thought he was that reprehensible.
A DC Comics Editor of the Year and former Lobo editor, Dan Raspler.
Ultimately, what made Lobo work is that he was a loser. He's a bully and he comes up short. He might get the last laugh, but he's not a winner. The stuff has to be funny, otherwise he's just a villain. And he's kind of stupid, and he gets all enraged and kills people. I mean, and the violence at the time was pronounced. It was really distinctly, horrifically violent. Not a lot of other mainstream stuff. Not a lot of stuff was coming out from the publishers had active beheadings and arms getting torn off, and it was like really guts and violent.
As Keith Giffen grew as a writer and landed more and more titles, his new favorite creation would also follow with him.
That's actually where Lobo first returned. I think Giffen brought him back into Justice League. And then from there, Giffen put him in Legion, which was a really good comic. I just totally forgotten. Just utterly forgotten that comic. Lobo was, because he was an outer space, contemporary outer space character. Giffen roped him into the Legion appearance, and then he proved popular enough that Keith pitched the miniseries, The Last Zarnian, which was, Alan Grant wrote the dialogue.
Legendary Lobo artist Val Semeiks, on writer Alan Grant.
He's a terrific writer. a natural with dialogue for Lobo and all the other characters. It just seems to flow without any effort. And the stories are great. Lobo makes me laugh out loud, even when I look at the issues now. They're great fun to draw, just because the dialogue is so good. I tend to like working from scripts because then I can draw very, very closely to what the dialogue is giving me. Gives for good character reactions, acting, and all that kind of stuff. And it was just great, great comedy.
Lobo's 1994 issue miniseries, The Last Zarnian, saw a change in the origin of the character under Giffen and co-writer Alan Grant. With spectacular art by Simon Bisley, we learn that Lobo actually hailed from Sarnia, and is the last of his race, as he killed off every other single Zarnian on the planet. That is until Lobo learns that his 4th grade teacher, Mrs. Tribb, is alive. And not only is she alive, but Legion leader Vril Dox has ordered Lobo to retrieve the woman and bring her back to Legion HQ. Alive. And thus spawned the hilarious violent tale that redefined the character and brought Lobo directly to the forefront of the characters in the DC universe. Released in December 1991, the Lobo Paramilitary Christmas Special brought Giffen, Grant, Bisley, and Lobo back together for one of the best Christmas stories ever created. The story is quite simple, and yet so evil. The Easter Bunny hires Lobo to kill Santa Claus, and Lobo immediately heads to the North Pole. Elves are torn apart as Lobo searches for Father Christmas. He finally finds Chris, the Crusher, Kringle, and his gorilla, Kong. A massive fight ensues with Lobo, of course, being the victor. And then Lobo decides to look at Santa's list and drop H-bombs on anyone that may have been nice over the course of the year. Just straight up murders everybody. The story is bookended by a husband and wife reading this Lobo adventure in book form as they wonder how they are going to give Christmas presents to their 10 kids. Ultimately, they murder their children rather than face their disappointment. Editor, Dan Raspler.
It feels a little underground almost. And it's raw. Like, it's not aware of itself as doing this crazy thing. It's just telling this weird story with this weird, ugly couple, and Alan Grant just sort of like coming up with this weird exchange between these two about killing their kids and all this. It's not aware of its tropes yet. He's just a kind of an aggressive jerk, Lobo, but he's not. He's just sort of a guy who comes and do a job. He's just funny. You know, I think that now everyone's funny. Everyone has to have a line after every scene, you know? So I don't know, maybe Lobo, it's not like Lobo was in an original. Everyone kind of did that. He's just in a long line of wise guys, hardcore wise guys.
Scott Leberact was no industry newcomer. Working for the legendary Industrial Light and Magic, Leberact had worked on huge Hollywood blockbusters like Eraser, 101 Dalmatians, Spawn, Flubber, and Sleepy Hollow. He decided to enroll in the 5-year course for directors at the American Film Institute. During his time at AFI, his mind wandered back to one of his first comics he had ever read, the Lobo Paramilitary Christmas Special, which was purchased for him by his brother. In 2002, Scott Leberact directed the Lobo Paramilitary Christmas Special as part of the American Film Institute's Director's Studies program, joined by many other students involved in the program and those who dedicated their time for the project. The film was made on the tiniest of budgets, only $2,400. Yet, so many years later, the film really stands out, and that is thanks to Leberact's amazing direction, the production by Sam Esmail, phenomenal makeup, and absolutely wonderful performances by the 3 main actors. For Lobo, you need an actor that can be a presence, a muscular, no-nonsense and gruff personality who could be snarky, funny, while pulling off Lobo's unique vernacular and humor. Actor Andrew Bryniarski has always been that presence on the big screen.
It's the battle. They're going to war with the other guys. We're the lucky ones.
My name's Butterfinger.
But the muscular actor is also a spectacular thespian, having worked with some of the biggest directors in Hollywood, including Tim Burton, Oliver Stone, Michael Bay, John Singleton, Joss Whedon, and John McTiernan. Long before Leberak decided to make the Christmas special, Bryniarski already had his sights set on playing Lobo. So much so that the actor had already been trying to bring the larger-than-life comic character to the big screen for a number of years prior. The main man himself, Andrew Bryniarski.
I tracked Keith Giffen down with my friend who's a licensed private investigator. Found him reclusing in New Jersey and got permission to go ahead and start working with him. That was long before Scott ever called me. And I'd even had a meeting with Damon from Silver Pictures, who works on Higher Learning with me. And I'd already done a short teaser in the makeup and the costume I put together myself before Scott ever found me. He saw that. And that's what got him to contact me when he was doing his graduate thesis at AFI. The same part of me that grew up on Gene Simmons and used to put on grease paint in the mirror. The same reason probably why I'm in half a dozen films wearing grease paint. Any given Sunday, a Warner Brothers project, I actually fucking wore Lobo's makeup, had Lobo t-shirt in my locker during the pregame ritual scene that you can see in the director's cut. I was trying to lay heavy-handed hits.
DC Comics is one of the many companies owned by Time Warner, who also happens to own Warner Brothers. Nearly all DC Comics projects will come out through Warner Brothers, whether they are live action TV series, or cartoons. Jules Silver had produced some of Hollywood's biggest films like Die Hard, Predator, Roadhouse, Commando, and Weird Science. Silver had also produced some of the biggest Warner Brothers films of all time, including the Lethal Weapon series, the Matrix trilogy, and the Sherlock Holmes films. Hudson Hawk was not a box office success upon its release, but is now considered a cult classic that was just a bit ahead of its time, and perhaps a little too quirky. Unfortunately, because of some behind-the-scenes antics, Silver never considered Andrew to be first in line to audition for the role of Lobo. Andrew Bryniarski.
I pissed Joe Silver off during filming of my very first film ever, Hudson Hawk. He let me take a development meeting, and Damon became the VP of development of Silver Pictures. Joe never even came out of his suite to fucking address me. And, I pretty much, as far as Joe Silver is concerned, he was done with me because of some stunt I pulled as a 20-year-old on location with Hudson Hawk. It's regrettable. But, people say, why don't you get the rights when they expire? There's no expiring Joe Silver's rights. He's earned his relationship with Warner Brothers by producing billions of dollars worth of product with them. Joe Silver is going to produce that movie if and when it's ever made. The truth is there's a lot of people that will line up forever till he's dead and gone to work with Joe Silver next because he'll turn their money into billions of dollars in profits.
Tom Gibis was a working actor when the Lobo Paramilitary Christmas Special rolled around, and while his name might not be instantly recognizable, his voice sure is.
It makes me tired just thinking about the whole thing. Some mornings are such a drag.
Gibis is perhaps most well known for his vocal portrayal of Shikamaru in the anime Naruto, for which he voiced 900 episodes, as well as countless films and video games. But before Shikamaru and Naruto, Gibis answered the call for the Lobo project. The Easter Bunny, Tom Gibis.
As I recall, it was done through the AFI, American Film Institute, and they have a program where you basically drop off your headshot and resume, and you're part of this pool of actors. And I got a call just come in and audition for the Easter Bunny. I went over there and auditioned, and I did kind of a funny voice, and Scott liked the voice, and I got cast, and the rest is sort of history.
With Andrew on board to play Lobo, Tom cast as the Easter Bunny, and actor Michael V. Allen playing Santa Claus, Leberak had collected an amazing cast for his short film. With a crew of film students and industry volunteers, and a tiny budget that was increased by donations, Leberak was ready to shoot his film. The makeup for the film is extraordinary, especially when it comes to Lobo and the Easter Bunny, but Gibis found that working with fledgling filmmakers wasn't easy for someone when in heavy costume. Tom Gibis.
this is a bunny that kind of went through the ringer. You know, he's dirty. His ears were kind of messed up. His teeth were yellowed and crooked, and you know, he just had a rough life, which I thought was kind of an interesting way to do it. They brought me in at I want to say 6 in the morning. It was an early call for me, and it took 4 or 5 hours to do the makeup. It was pretty uncomfortable makeup, and I remember. So 6 hours, you know, get into costume, put on the stuff, and of course you get under the lights and it's super hot. And I remember we went to the first setup. I come out, they, you know, put me under the lights, you know, run through the scene a couple times, and they're tweaking the lights and all of this, that, and the other thing. And then they go, okay, let's break for lunch. Now, I couldn't eat anything because I was in this costume, and I could have a straw drink, but it's super uncomfortable. And I just remember that was the one thing that I was a little frustrated with, because I pulled the director aside and I said, this is what I'd like you to do. Not that you're going to do it. I'd like you to go to a Big Five, which is sporting a good store, and I'd like you to buy ski masks for the entire crew. And make them wear the ski masks, and they can only take it off when we're done with the shot. Because I think they'll move faster. They will get it done. Because if they're at the level of uncomfort that I'm at right now, to go 6-7 hours in makeup and then break for lunch, and we haven't gotten anything on film yet. You know, it's just like, oh my God, you're killing me. What was funny about that is Andrew, who played Lobo, he ended up becoming this huge advocate for me on set then, because he understood how miserable I was in this makeup, and he was in full body paint, you know, the whole thing. He had the contact lenses in, which were annoying, and so he was really funny because he would get that deep sort of Lobo voice, and he'd be like, "We need to hustle up here, people. We got this guy sweating his ass off in this thing. Let's go, you know, let's play film. Let's go. Let's make it a take."
Andrew Bryniarski.
The actors that he was able to assemble really impressed the fuck out of me. I mean, you got those Three Stooges fucking elves, pure comedy. Santa Claus, the way he delivered that whole fucking thing, and the Easter Bunny. I mean, it was a little bit of magic we pulled off on the lunch budget on one day of a feature film. I'm wearing what are called scarrels, a contact lens that's as thick as a rubber bag. They're the diameter of your entire eye, with just a black dot that you can see through. It's not something that, I'm going to wait around all day while people jerk off on a learning curve. They better have to, get the shots and be aware of the sacrifice as well. I was really impressed with what they were able to do for having no money, and they were committed. Everybody was committed and passionate about the project, and I give that a lot of success for credit for success.
Liberac's movie hits all the major beats of the comic.
Lobo! Just when you think you've seen her.
Oh, the main man is in the house. Oh.
Lobo walks in to meet the Easter Bunny.
It's Santa Claus, see? He's gotten way too big for his britches. Hell, his Christmas is out of control. How can we compete?
So you want the Bat Boy scragged?
Yes.
I never did like Christmas. I never got nothing I asked for.
And is subsequently hired to kill Santa Claus.
Right.
Do we have a deal?
Consider him meat.
At the North Pole, everyone is frightened by the sudden appearance of the main man.
Let's roll. What's that?
And the elves are no match for our favorite Bastich.
What is it?
The naughtiest one has come.
After mowing them all down, Lobo comes face to face with Father Christmas.
You can hide, but you can't run. Who's hiding? Hot shot. get you a drink. Forget it, Lard Ball. I got a job to do. Oh, yes. I heard.
Who has also captured our favorite spiteful bunny.
He neutered me.
I couldn't resist. They are delicacies. He's got a point.
Santa tries to rationalize with Lobo to get out of being murdered, but it doesn't go so well.
Gunning down an unarmed, mythic symbol is the only way you know. Go ahead. Shoot. Okay.
Oh, wait! So Santa resorts to the old, here's the present you never got trick, and tries to kill Lobo with his back turned.
Merry Christmas.
Oh, shit!
Naughty bastard.
The Easter Bunny rejoices, but never ever get too happy when you are in a movie with Lobo.
Christmas will be forgotten. It'll be a thing of the past. And children from all over the world will worship me as their patron saint. Do you hear me, you fat, dead fuck? Christmas is over! Going.
Always did hate the holidays.
It was at the end of the day, I'd say I'm glad I did it, and I thought it turned out really great, and I thought everybody put in really fantastic performances, and I thought he did an awesome job.
Fantastic. It's gorgeous. They really did a gorgeous job with it, my goodness. It's really surprising how good a job they did.
But there was no bat in the sun then. There was no acceptance of fan films. Scott was able to do it because it was a learning experience and an exercise for his graduate thesis project. It was never supposed to be released for the public, and at the time, it was a real hairy thing to do. People had made copies of it and sent them to me, and were selling them at, fan conventions and stuff, but I was worried about that. I never wanted to do it because I didn't want to dilute the brand value and be sued by Joel Silver and Warner Brothers or anything like that. It wasn't common practice to just, without license to a character, make a fan film that looks better than the fucking Hollywood version for no money, like Bat in the Sun that's done well today.
By the late 90s, Lobo's popularity had started to wane. A 1996 fighting game for the Sega Genesis and Super Nintendo were both canceled, even though the games were completed, or nearly completed. The game was due in winter 1996, which is very late in the lifespan of both consoles, with the Nintendo 64 being released in North America that September and the Saturn a few years earlier. A Lobo animated series was planned as well, but never came to fruition. A Lobo web series was released, but the animation and stories really didn't do the character justice.
You're bean counting geekwad!
At one point, Guy Ritchie was attached to direct Lobo with Joel Silver producing. Some unusual casting choices to play Lobo included Will Smith, who went on to play Deadshot in Suicide Squad, and Jeffrey Dean Morgan, who played DC characters in The Losers and Watchmen, while also portraying Negan in The Walking Dead.
If I'm not going to be considered and it ever happens, I would want it to go to somebody like Dwayne, who's capable, and see him push the limit of what he's done and what Hollywood's comfortable with. If they're willing to bank him, I'd rather see that than see somebody that ruined a great character as far as big tough alpha male fucking enforcers go. Just Jeffrey Dean Morgan, who played Negan like it was like he was asleep.
Guy Ritchie would leave the project to direct the sequel to a Sherlock Holmes film. The film has since been in development hell for some years. Actor Emmett Scanlon will portray the Lysarnian on the small screen in the Superman Man of Steel prequel Krypton in Season 2. The Lobo feature film got a huge kickstart thanks to the hard R and financial success of Deadpool, a character often compared to Lobo due to the humor and excessive violence. The script is being written by Jason Fuchs.
Deadpool's still like Lobo's girly little fucking sister for the masses' ease of consumption. Lobo's more violent and quicker with the fucking comment than Deadpool.
Scott Leberact continued his Hollywood career by writing and directing the 2011 feature film Midnight Sun. He currently works for Valve, possibly on Half-Life 3 or Portal 3, but probably neither. Producer Sam Esmail is the creator of television shows like Mr. Robot and Homecoming, for which he also executive produces, writes, and directs. There's almost no introducing Stan Lee, who created or co-created some of the biggest characters in superhero history, like X-Men, Spider-Man, and Iron Man. But what was Stan's favorite DC character?
What's your favorite DC superhero?
DC?
Yeah.
Lobo. Well, I don't know if you can call him a hero. My favorite DC character.
Lobo can still be found in DC Comics today, though his look and attitude has changed quite a bit from the character everyone may have known and loved. Lobo co-creator Roger Silfer unfortunately passed on in 2015 due to complications from being struck by a hit-and-run driver 3 years earlier. At 53 years old, Robert Downey Jr. is still considered the Iron Man, with audiences looking forward to his performance in Avengers Endgame. At 51 years old, Vin Diesel has never looked better as he prepares the world for Sony Pictures and Valiant Comics' adaptation of Bloodshot, due out in 2020. Ben Affleck may have just passed on the Batman mantle, but at 46 years old, he may have provided what may be the most definitive Batman in the superhero's cinematic history. With the new film on the horizon, and at just 49 years old, it is a possibility that Andrew Bryniarski could someday, one day, be Lobo on the big screen. Even if that doesn't happen, we will always have the Lobo Paramilitary Christmas Special to compare each and every Lobo performance to see how well they stack against Andrew Bryniarski. First and foremost, a gigantic thank you to my man Carlos Godfrey of Punishing Cosplay for his killer introduction as the main man himself. You can find the links for Punishing Cosplay's Instagram and Facebook in the description below. A thank you to Rob Allen for his voiceover in this episode, and check out Rob's YouTube channel, youtube.com/dualwieldtube. As always, thank you to the wonderful Jocy Ritchie for providing the ASL for this episode. Be sure to check out Jocy's spectacular makeup tips on her YouTube and find all of her links in the description below. The music for this episode was provided by the band Yorkshire 10th off of their brand new album, New Again. You can find New Again and more of Yorkshire 10th's music via the links in the description below. A huge thanks to Val Semeiks. You can travel to valsemeiks.com to look at Val's original sketches from his sketchbooks, a look at Val's portfolio, original art for sale, and even commissions from the legendary artist. Also, a huge thanks to Dan Raspler for talking Lobo on this episode. Raspler edited nearly every DC comic book before his retirement. You can check out an episode 2 extra with Dan talking about one of my favorite 90s comic books, Young Heroes in Love, in the description below. A monster thanks to Tom Gibis for his interview, behind-the-scenes photos, and even voicing the Lobo trailer. You can find Tom currently voicing Shikamaru on Baruto, Naruto Next Generations. Interested in voice work in ADR? Tom talks his career in voiceover work in an episode 2 extra, and guess where? In the description below. And a massive, monster thanks to the one and only Andrew Bryniarski, the man who was Zangief, Leatherface, Latimer, Butterfinger, and so many outstanding and memorable Hollywood roles. It was such an honor having you on the show, Andrew. Next time you're back home, just tell me Geno's or Pat's. Thanks for watching. It really helps if you like, subscribe, and comment below, especially if you like what you saw today. We'll be back with another episode of Based On A, but until then, this is Ryan from 2G1, and I'll catch you next movie.
Hey, this is Tom Gibis, the Easter Bunny from Lobo's Paramilitary Christmas, and thank you for watching 2G1's Based On A Comic.
It was one of the biggest comics of the 1990s that became an animated film with a voice cast that most would die for.
We sat down and says, okay, who do you want? And I said, well, I know Mark Hamill's on board.
Get up off your ass, Miss Fairchild.
All I knew was, like, I wanted Mark Hamill and E.G. Daily.
Welcome to the club, Caitlin Fairchild.
That's the perfect voice. He says, okay, who do you see for Lynch? And I said, Delancey. And they went, he's perfect. Perfect actor.
Better be.
And Alicia Witt.
I could twist your head off right now, you know that?
She could have just played it. If it was live action, she could have just played the role.
But no one could possibly guess the end result for the Gen 13 animated film.
Jim called me up and said, hey, I'm making this deal with Disney for Gen 13. And I'm like, no, don't do it. They shelve everything. And Disney did what they always did back then.
2G1's Based On It returns with Episode 3, Gen 13, with special guest Wildstorm editor Shannon Eric Denton, producer Karen Colas, director Kevin Altieri, and star John Delancey.
She looks all right to me.
Keep your thinking above your waist, Buster.